This was by far the hardest thing I've ever done. I'm Vanessa Vida Kelly, and I am the author and illustrator of When the Tides Held the Moon. When the Tides Held the Moon is a queer historical romantasy. It is also a fully illustrated adult work of fiction. It's about a young man named Benigno Caldera who immigrates to the United States in 1911 from Puerto Rico and becomes an iron worker here, at which point he gets a commission to build a massive water tank for a proprietor at Coney Island. And from that point, he gets roped into kidnapping its intended inhabitant, a merman from the East River. So it's a book about identity and cultivating freedom from the inside. And Benny really learns a lot about himself through the interactions that he has with the other sideshow performers, especially with the merman Rio. I remember sitting on the Zoom call with Diana Pho, my editor, and she asked point blank, "What is your vision for this book?" And I said, well, my hope is that it would be like a little time capsule, that holding this book would feel like holding a book that was actually printed in 1911, because at that time, all books, regardless of audience, were illustrated. I grew up with illustrated works, and the book that I think really sort of created a core memory in my brain was Little Women. And what was interesting about it was that it had pen and ink illustrations all over it, but it also had these full color tableaus. As soon as I had this idea for a book taking place in Coney Island about a man falling in love with a merman, I set about creating concept works that matched the richness of those illustrations that I had in that particular edition of Little Women. And what a gift to find a publisher that saw the value in giving adult audiences an illustrated book.
So when I was a kid, there's a series of classic quote-unquote illustrated books, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan. I absolutely fell in love with those books as a kid, and I think that When the Tides Held the Moon was a perfect opportunity for me to blend my love of graphic novels, my love of books, prose novels, and combine them to create a beautiful story with Vanessa and the team at Erewhon.
The development process was very unique. You know, here's a publishing company that has not had occasion to publish an illustrated work before. A lot of what we were doing was, coming up with processes and workflows from scratch.
I'm one of those people who has, the 100-column spreadsheet. I have to work my way backwards from the on sale date to pinpoint, when does everything need to get done so that you can have a book finished and beautiful sitting on the bookshelf. That's always, of course, especially complicated if you also happen to be illustrating it, which, as Vanessa can say, is a huge task.
We started with this master illustration list. I listed out all of the chapters in the book and scenes from each chapter that I thought I was comfortable conveying in an illustrated manner. From there, it was a matter of whittling down the list.
It was a constant conversation between myself, Vanessa, Cass Farrin, and Leah Marsh, who also worked as our production editor, plus other people from the team. We all had a lot of insights about what scenes should come to life.
At the end, we had something that was very well balanced, showed us all the characters, gave us a sense of all of the environments, and sort of took readers on a visual journey as well as a narrative one.
When I talk about working on books in general, I always compare it to a theater production. And while Vanessa and her story and When the Tides of the Moon is center stage, there's so many people in the background, working on all the little details before the book even hits the shelves. And a lot of credit really goes to Cass and Leah for also being so on top of things, so insightful, with such expertise and such warmth and enthusiasm every step of the way.
What do you do to take this beautiful art in digital form and translate it into print? And you think like, oh, that's kind of straightforward. But what if your paper is 400 PPI? What if it's 250 PPI? Is it like parchment paper? Is it thick and coarse? All of those things change how art looks in the physical product.
So poor Cass has had to spend all day or night figuring out how to take all of these illustrations and split them up in a way that the printers can read it so that the two different inks can be implemented. So that means going in and slicing and dicing all of my pictures so that portions of it will read in cyan, which will then become the Pantone color that Cass is selecting. This is very complicated.
This was my first time working on a fully illustrated book, so I learned a lot about some of the technical aspects of working with color, as well as managing a large amount of art files across multiple versions. I oversaw the copy editing and proofreading processes, as well as the design and layout of the inside of the book.
Leah's instincts as an interior page designer are so on point.
Since Vanessa is both an author and an illustrator, that really enabled this unique collaborative process for putting together the book's interior. And it was really rewarding to be able to work directly with Vanessa on the design of the pages and come up with a really beautiful and vibrant look that complemented the text. I'm really proud of the finished product, and it was so exciting to be part of bringing this special story to life.
It was admittedly a lot of work, but having this particular team of people working on When the Tides Held the Moon was such an enriching and rewarding experience, and it was fun.
Here it is. At least here's a version of it. This is the arc of the book. So readers, early reviewers, will be able to get a taste before publication. Because even this version, which is not even final, is one of the most beautiful things that I have seen in a long time. Really, it makes a really gorgeous, beautiful, wondrous, magical story really come to life. And I am so proud of being able to be a part of this. I am honored to help ferry Vanessa's story out into the greater world.
For me, it's like a form of appreciation and gratitude, right? I can see all the work the team put in all along the way, all the layered tasks that everyone did, and I get this final opportunity to just give it all a once over, make sure it's really ready to go, and sort of congratulate the team on getting the files out the door.
I think this is a really timely novel. It's about a group of marginalized individuals in an oppressive structure who find a way to fight back and to resist. And the struggle for self-actualization and freedom in the face of odds that are stacked against you. It helps to remember that we've gotten through times like this before. We don't survive oppression or defeat tyrants alone. We need each other.
I think this is a story of hope. Stories like When the Tides Held the Moon, that are about immigrants and people of color and queer people and the working poor and people fleeing war and violence and persecution. These are the stories that we need to help build our strength for the fight ahead.
I cannot wait to hold it in my hand as a real book once it hits the warehouse.
I think we all wanted to create an immersive reading experience, and I think we nailed it.